you people. You people are out here right now, as we speak, dragging Frank Miller. Frank fucking Miller. The man who gave you Batman Year One. The man who gave you Sin City. The man who gave you Daredevil and Elektra. The man who basically invented the modern comic book industry's entire aesthetic. And you're in the comment section calling whatever he's drawn lately scribbles. You're doing his line shake now bit. And I want to say on the record right here, right now, that makes you a bad fucking person. Not a bad fan, not a bad critic, a bad person. Now, here's the deal. Here's what nobody wants to talk about. When an artist gets older, something happens to the hand. It's called being a human being. And instead of hiding it, instead of quitting, instead of going the safe route and just tracing his own 1986 poses for the rest of his fucking life like some nostalgia vending machine, Frank Miller leans into it. He let the line work get raw. He let it get ugly. He let it get honest. And if you're sitting there with your little old, he can't fucking draw anymore tweet, like you've contributed one single thing to Western art your entire life, you're a bad fucking person. You want to talk about shaky lines? You want to talk about loose and grotesque and unfinished? Let's talk about Ralph Steadman. Ralph Steadman, Hunter S. Thompson's primary artist. Ralph Steadman didn't get more polished when he got older. He got more feral. Those ink blots flying off the page in Fear and Loathing, that's not a mistake. That's the point. Nobody calls Steadman washed up. Nobody goes, oh, Ralph really fucking lost a step. No. They call it gonzo. They call it vital. And they also call it unmistakable. Same principle. Frank Miller doesn't get that same courtesy. And I want to know why. You want another one? How about Art Spiegelman? Mouse. A man draws mice representing actual genocide victims in a scratchy, kind of minimalist, almost childlike way. And it wins a Pulitzer. Nobody said, clean your artwork, art. Nobody said, this doesn't look like Mad Magazine's polish, therefore it's bad. Because the roughness was the emotional delivery system. The roughness was the craft. That's the thing critics refuse to extend to a 70-year-old Frank Miller drawing like the ink itself is angry at the page. Dave McKean. Dave McKean built an entire career an entire aesthetic identity on collage, on distortion, on faces that don't resolve into anything clean. Sandman covers, you know, Arkham Asylum. Half the industry calls that high art. Nobody is out there going, McKean forgot how fucking anatomy works. No, because we collectively decided that McKean's abstraction is sophistication. But Miller's abstraction, at the same age, no less, in the same career arc, that's decline. He lost it. Same move, different verdict. And I'm asking you directly. Yes, you. Why the double standard? Frank Miller's autobiography came out today. And I started reading it. There's a passage, and I'm not going to sit here and read it word for word. It's his book, it's his voice. Go buy it yourself. But there's a passage where he's writing about New York City, and it's not the New York City you'd expect from the guy who drew Sin City. It's tender. It's romantic. He's writing about that city the way you write about someone you've loved your whole life. But here's what got me. He's not writing about the city he remembers from when he was young, at least not initially. When he was broke and he didn't know where his next meal was coming from. He's writing about it now. Through the eyes of the man he is today, same skyline, same streets, a completely different set of eyes, though, looking at them. That's not decline. That's not a man who's lost his edge. That's what 60, 70 years of living does to a man's relationship with the place that raised him. The city didn't get softer. He did. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the whole deal. That's what you're supposed to get if you're lucky enough to get old. And you know what? Here's my problem with all of you motherfuckers. You've got a guy who can write a passage like that. A guy who can look back at a city he once starved in and find nothing in his heart but love for it. And all you can talk about is that his fucking line shaped now. You're not looking at the man. You're looking at his hand. And you're missing his heart completely. People get old. Things change. Your favorite artist from 30 years ago is not the same person today. But he's not supposed to be. If the only Frank Miller you'll accept is the 28-year-old one, you don't love the work. You love a snapshot. And a snapshot isn't the person. That's why I'm telling you. It's easier to mock a legend than to sit with what he's actually doing. It's easier to make the shaky Batman meme than to admit that an artist getting older, getting rawer, getting more romantic about the things that shaped him is not decay, it's evolution. It's what Picasso did. It's what, like later Picasso, it looks like angular, cartoonish, wrong by Academy standards. And now it hangs in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and you fucking buy the tote bag. Give it 40 years. And people are going to be studying Frank Miller's late period, this period, exactly the same way. So, I've yelled at you long enough. Here's my closing statement, and I want you to sit with it. Mocking Frank Miller's recent work isn't edgy. It isn't, I'm just being honest. It's lazy. It's the same energy as when you booed Mike Tyson for throwing a different punch than he threw 20 years ago. And by the way, that motherfucker could still knock you out cold in the first round. Respect the body of work. Respect the evolution. Or don't. But understand that when you do that, when you take the cheap shot at a guy who's still standing in the ring, giving you all he's got, that's on you. That makes you the bad guy, not him. That's not a hot take. That's the temperature. Cheers.